It's time for a Cup of Red, so let's fill your cup with rad pop culture vibes. And now your over-caffeinated hosts, Mike and Katie. Hey kids, guess what? We have another exciting episode, and we have a very special guest, someone that we've been trying to get on the phones for a while. And we have Adam Neeson from the Spit Roast Pod. Hey Adam, thank you for joining me on the show. How you doing?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me, Mike.
I'm very excited to talk to you because we talk a lot on Instagram. First time I think we've ever actually talked on the phone. Luckily, I listened to your podcast, so I know what you sound like, because I know sometimes when you call people, you're not expecting a voice, and sometimes, even if it's not anything different from you, just you see how people write, and then you're like, whoa, I didn't expect you to sound like that.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't really hear the Northern Irish accent that often.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's not something that I run into. So I actually get quite a few people from the States. They're like, well, when does your Canadian accent kick in? And I was like, I'm a West Coaster, so I just sound like a West Coaster. I don't have that. Yeah. You know, we don't have the mid or the east. You know, it's really weird to hear how different accents go. But we're not here to talk about accents. We're here to talk about you, which is pretty cool. What I want to ask you,
it's my favorite subject.
It's all about you today. We're gonna get a little bit inside you. You know, we'll ease it in.
Oh, that's my dream. Be gentle.
Well, yeah, that's what we'll do this time. But next time, all bets are off.
Raw dog,
right? So, for those that don't know, Adam is the host, or are you the co-host of the Spit Roast Pod?
I'd say co-host now. It kind of started as me, and now it's kind of transformed into both me and Heidi, with Callum sometimes guest hosting.
Which is pretty fun. It's really cool that you and Heidi get to do that together. It's nice to hear the differences of opinion on movies, you know, when you go see things. It's fun to have that.
Because she's more of the, like, layman opinion, where I'm more of a, not expert, but I know more about movies, where she's just going to see it as, like, a general audience member.
Yeah, which is really cool from both sides.
Yeah.
So with that, though, can you tell our listeners what the Spit Roast Pod is?
Yeah, well, it's a movie podcast, which we focus more on weekly news and reviews of, like, the latest movies and blockbusters. Like I said, it's hosted by me and my girlfriend Heidi. Heidi's from England, so our accents are completely different. I'll look at things at a more critical standpoint, like director-wise or cinematography-wise or score, actors, whereas she'll just watch a movie and be like, oh, that was good or that was bad. Some of her favourite movies are, you know, when you go into, like, a Walmart and you go to, like, the dollar bin,
yeah,
and you see the cover of a horror movie and you're like, why has anybody ever made this? That's Heidi's favourite type of movie. That's her favourite genre of movie.
Nice.
But then we do, like, special episodes. We have the Art of Cinema, like, side podcast thing we do, which isn't a very creative name. I hate myself every day for coming up with it, but it's stuck now, so I have to keep it. And we do little musical episodes about favourite musicians and how those musicians relate to my life. So it's not just like a let's break down such and such album. It's a how does this musician affected me over the years. And I love doing it. It's fun. And especially the Art of Cinema, it's more me and my obsessive nature over watching every film and just putting information into my head. It really helps cull that, because I can pick a certain person and just be like, right, this week we're just watching Jim Jarmusch movies 24/7. We're going to bed listening to Jim Jarmusch interviews, listening to commentaries 24/7, and then I can just throw it all up figuratively into a microphone, and then hopefully people enjoy it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, your Art of Cinema episodes are really interesting to listen to, especially hearing your opinion on how they've affected you as a being, right? So,
yeah.
From that, though, I don't know if I've ever recall hearing it, but what is your name? How did you get your name, Spit Roast?
It just kind of came to me one day. Do you know when you just have, like, a vision of something and you can see it all, like, fully laid out?
Okay.
Because you have, like, when you come up into, like, a movie podcast, it's easy to be like, oh, it's called Reel to Reel, or Backseats in the Theatre. Do you know what I mean? It's something that relates to movies.
Yeah.
Whereas Spit Roast, it's just, like, the image in my head was like, oh, that sounds like a podcast. Like, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, but it's memorable.
Yeah.
And it kind of sets us apart in the sense of, this isn't for kids, because we're definitely going to use very bad language. And if you know what a spit roast is, you know it's crude. But if you don't know what it is, you think it's just a pig over a fire. So it's the kind of the dynamic between me and Heidi. If you're in the know, you're like, oh, this is something. But if you're not in the know, you're like, oh, that's cute, it's just a pig.
Okay, so at least I did have that right thought process when I originally thought of it.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool, because also too, though, by calling it, say that there, you're not stuck with just the movies. You can have your branch out, which, you know, effectively then allows you to be broader in what you're talking about.
Yeah, but because our whole thought dynamic about making the podcast was, me and Callum would sit down, because he lives in a different town. So he would come and stay with me, and we would talk from like 8 p.m. till 8 a.m. just about movies. And we would never repeat ourselves. We would never get bored. We would just have to go to bed out of necessity rather than wanting to go to bed.
Yeah.
And our thought was, we'll do a YouTube show that is half Siskel and Ebert and half the Eric Andre show. So it would just be pure madness, but in the middle would be two people trying to give a movie review. And we're trying to get to that. We never realised how much money it would actually be to make something so outlandish. So we decided we'll just do a podcast, because we genuinely like talking about movies. But in the future, hopefully we'll get to the YouTube stage where we create content that's a little bit different. Like, I like the Red Letter Media guys a lot when they review movies, because they set themselves apart. It's not like a Chris Stockman where he just like sits in front of a camera and he's like, well, Lion King's really boring. They create skits and stuff, and it's more memorable and it's more rewatchable, because you want to return to rewatch those bits rather than just returning to rewatch somebody's opinion on something.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You got to have that hook, right, to really grab people into viewing it and making it something interesting. And whenever you throw comedy in there, it's always more interesting, right?
Yeah.
So leading with that, what inspired you to create your movie-based pod?
I've always loved podcasts for years. Like, whenever I was in my teenage years and first got like my first iPod, and they had the little podcast section, I was like, oh, what's this? I would go on, and it was like Ricky Gervais was like probably like the first podcasts that were like available, and like the top 10 charts. Every single episode was like Ricky Gervais. And I was like, well, I like Ricky Gervais, so I'd like this. And that kind of stemmed into Kevin Smith released the Smodcast, and I would not even download it on iTunes. I had to download it straight from the RSS feed. Hopefully kids listening to this know what RSS feed is. But back in the good old day of dial-up internet. But yeah, I've always been into podcasts, and it's been my go-to option if I'm like exercising or going walking or anything. Music to me is more of a cinematic thing. It's really weird. Whenever I listen to music, I always think of images. I can't really understand how my brain works, but sometimes I don't like a certain song until I see the music video, and if I like the music video, I'm like, this song's actually really good. But podcasts, it's the thought of you being in the room listening to this conversation, and although you're not part of it, you're part of it in your head, and it gets the wheels turning. So you're not listening to a podcast and somebody's feeding your information and you're just spitting it out verbatim. a podcast starts a conversation in your mind, which can start a conversation with somebody else.
Yeah, that makes sense. That is a very good opinion on that, because it does. I had a comment recently just about our Spider-Man episode where it was the things you brought up about the original Raimi Spider-Man I didn't think about until you said them, and now I got thinking about it and went back, and it was wow, you are right on that, right? So it's a great way to get that information out and have people think, because we should question things and wonder, and it's not just a TED Talk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Why it's why like Joe Rogan's podcast is like the most popular podcast in the world, because it's just questions.
Yeah.
And it's mind-bending questions sometimes. I'm not a big, massive fan of Joe Rogan because he talks about DMT far too much. But he gets on interesting people and therefore starts a conversation. Whereas, like yourself with Cup of Rad, and I'm not including myself obviously with this, but you interviewed multiple people on Instagram, like in seeing Dragon Ball and stuff. That, to me, I'm like, oh, I would never think of watching Dragon Ball or getting into it, but the conversations between you guys is captivating.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm hoping I'll start reaching out more and starting to get some more going with some more people. I'm going to start a new thing. I just did it with Insane Dragon Ball, and I'm hoping I'll be able to get some more people to come back to do it, but it's going to be 5 fandoms, 5 characters. So kind of that breakdown of things and maybe what you can reconnect, what you could connect over, right? As that person chooses theirs.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting to be able to have some of that, because the whole point of what we're doing too is trying to find a positive way to be able to have some radness in your life, because there's a lot of terrible shit in the world, right? So a little bit of joy in what we can enjoy is good, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, with that, then, I think we've talked enough shop. I think it's time to do a little bit of inside of Adam moment. That was the ease. That was my foreplay for you.
It's whispered in my ear.
Yeah,
Tell me you love me.
Yeah, exactly. little bit of drool there for you. With that, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing some things about fandoms, but that's something I'm really curious about is what would you say are your top 3 fandoms out there?
I'd say number 1 would probably be SpiderMan. Okay. If you've seen my Instagram, you've seen my SpiderMan tattoos. It's a big part of my life. From as young as I can remember, I've always remembered Spider-Man, and either having comic books or playing the video games, and in the Sam Raimi movies, into the Andrew Garfields, and then now Tom Holland. It's such a relatable character, and obviously that's the way it's been created by Stanley and Steve Ditko. But it's not just a me thing. Obviously, you relate to Spider-Man a lot too, and millions of other people around the world. But to me, whenever I was reading the comic books of Spider-Man, whenever I was unemployed, Peter Parker was unemployed. Whenever my life started to come together, Peter Parker's life started to come together. And there's been this really weird synergy of both being able to relate to each other. I know that sounds weird because he's not a real character, and obviously the writers of the comic book do not know what's going on in my life, but there's always been a weird through line through our lives that has been a weird connection. And obviously I like to go out at night time and fight the lizard. It's my favorite side hobby.
I hope there's a video of that in the future.
That'll be one of our Eric Andre inspired.
Just running down the streets in a homemade Spidey suit, chasing someone else in a homemade lizard suit. I look forward to that.
Forced perspective things, like an old Ed Wood movie. It's a giant lizard and me in the foreground.
With Spider-Man, well, because that's something though that's great that you have that connection to be able to get that from the stories, because then it gives you a really personal feeling while you're listening. Reading.
Yeah.
And that really helps enhance your enjoyment of that story, for sure. Is there a favorite artist, writer team from your years of reading?
I don't know. Whenever I first started getting into SpiderMan, collecting it weekly, was I can never pronounce his name. I think it's Alberto Ramos.
Okay, yeah.
Their collaboration kind of started with the Brand New Day arc, when it was coming out 3 times a month.
Yeah.
And then Dan Slott took over and started his big time run. But I just loved those stories. Dan Slott gets a lot of shit for stories because at times they were really bad. Spider Island was great, but stuff kind of before Superior Spider-Man was not fantastic. But yeah, I'd probably say those two guys, because I've read every issue they've done. I have not read the Todd McFarlane stuff. I am in the middle of reading the J. Michael Straczynski stuff, which I really like, but it's harder to read an older Spider-Man when I'm so used to a younger Spider-Man. You know what I mean? And of course I love Bendis's Ultimate Run. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, Bendis did a great run with the Ultimates there, for sure. That's, I think, one of the more classic. That's one of the most the best reboots I think that's ever been done in comics. Yeah, the Straczynski stuff is really good, but yeah, you're right. He is older. You're not used to having that, especially in comics, and that's where Brand New Day kind of took off of, was the making everything disappear, right? Yeah. The McFarlane stuff's good. The art is really what takes that from there. As I said before, I grew up with the Clone Saga, and even though it's hated, I just have a soft spot, especially for Bagley's art. And luckily, I have Bagley for Ultimate, which is really cool. One that I really like is Spider-Man Blue from Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. That's a great book. I really like that one. So, well, no, that's really cool.
The last line of that, well, not the last line, but the Mary Jane coming in and saying, "Tell Gwen I said hello." Oh, it's so heartbreaking.
Right. Such a good book. It's amazing to have those, that whole world. You know, the minds that created these characters are just fantastic, and the ones that are able to continue them on and really speak to you is a great thing. So you said you had 2 Spider-Man tattoos, right?
Yes, I've got a Scotty Young Spider-Man tattoo at the back of my leg, and then just last week I got the Spider-Man symbol on my forearm. Nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Spider-Man. So then what would be another fandom of yours?
I don't really know if this is a fandom, but I couldn't really think of something, because I'm so sporadic when it comes to liking things. One week I could be like, oh, I love, I don't know, Captain America, and then the next week I'm like, I don't really care. But watching somebody's complete body of work, it's if you take, say for instance, we did Arts of Cinema on Danny Boyle. There was some Danny Boyle movies I hadn't seen, so the fact that I was able to sit down and watch these movies, if they were good or bad, but the satisfaction I got from watching everything they've done was something I love. It's like when you read a good book and you're like, oh, that was really good. You start looking from start to finish and you felt like there was a journey. Directors, it's kind of like a book where you're like, I've watched all of their work, but then whenever somebody releases a new movie that you love, so Danny Boyle released yesterday recently, it's like, oh good, there's another chapter in his book because his tale hasn't finished yet. So I'd say movie directors, it's not as exciting as Spider-Man or Kingdom Hearts or some other weird fandoms, but yeah, I just love movies so much as a medium of art that's probably one of my main fandoms.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because it is really cool to be able to, because for the longest time, it's not as common now, I think, because it doesn't seem like directors really have the same kind of catalog as they used to. Because it seems like someone will make 1 or 2 movies and then they'll have a bomb and then they have to go down to television again. Like they're almost treating it like a sports team now, where it's like, you kind of suck, so we're going to send you down to the farm team to get your skills back up and then see if you come back. But like someone like, say, Danny Boyle, or like, go back to the like Spielberg and stuff like that, they've got a catalog, and it is really exciting when, as you say, they bring out a new chapter in their stable of films, so you can see how they've grown or changed or became what they're doing. So that's a total legitimate fandom for sure.
It's funny to say that it's like a sport, because then you have people, I can't remember his name, like that's David something, but he directed Annabelle Creation, and then the next movie he directed is Shazam.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, because that's the method of Hollywood these days, of take an indie director and just be like, here, do you want one of the biggest franchises ever? Because you have that with Jurassic World, James Gunn, kind of with Guardians. The way it's a good and a bad thing for Hollywood, because it's, you can tell they want young voices, which is good, but also whenever you take somebody who's used to an indie sensibility and putting a $200 million movie on their back, it can crush that person like a Josh Trank.
Yep.
Or they can blossom like a James Gunn.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's something to see, because if any of those movies bomb, they'll drop to television like that, right? And you never used to have that. You had your directors, because now I think some of them are almost too excited to take on the big properties, because it's like, I got that contract, I'm going to do this. And they don't really stand up to those producers. And then you hear about it after on Twitter when they've failed, right? Well, it's not what I wanted. I really wanted this. It's like it's kind of like Hellboy, right? The new reboot. You find out after all the problems that happened, but he was just too happy to make a movie and said yes to all these things. And then when it wasn't going his way, then it was like, well, no, that's not what I wanted. It's heartbreaking to see, but that's the thing I notice, is it feels more like sports now, where it's really easy to watch them have to juggle around, or they burn out so much quicker, because when you look at who's coming out, there's not as many outstanding. They're not going to have that same staple of the, 11 or 12 films that are cherished, right? So what you need to do is you need to have the Spit Roast director hockey cards. Little stats on the back.
It's our latest merch. My Spielberg trumps your Jim Jarmusch.
It's like a Pokemon game, right?
I choose you.
He's taken over, $2 billion for this film, and combined with this producer. There's actually probably a game there. Kickstarter game.
Direct Hasbro on the phone.
Right? With that then, okay, so you got your Spider-Man, now you've got your directors. Do you have another kind of thing that caps that whole, what really is Adam?
It would probably be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
Just like Spider-Man, I've 3 Guardians of the Galaxy tattoos. And I've cosplayed as Star-Lord. It's such a relatable character, Star-Lord, of the man that doesn't want to grow up, but reluctantly has to, which is a staple in all of, man, kind of. There's people that come out of the, I was going to say vagina, people that come out of the womb that are just straight-laced and know what their life is going to be, but then there's me, and you can see that in Star-Lord, where he has went through a loss, he's went through some tragedy, and he is trying his best to cope. And when it comes to all of the Guardians, that's literally every character. They're trying their best to cope. And I did a video essay at the start of the year talking about Guardians of the Galaxy and how that relates to mental illness and stuff. I myself, of course, have struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts and stuff. And whenever the Guardians came into my life, they were a big inspiration to me. It's stupid to say that like a raccoon in a tree are more relatable than just somebody on the street telling you everything is going to be okay. But to me, that film and what James Gunn did and the love he put into it, he created not just the Guardians as a group, but also a community. Because whenever I put that video up and talked about those things, the amount of messages I got from just random people online, it was hundreds of messages of people saying, thank you for saying this, I feel exactly the same way. And like it's incredible, and they can bring people together. It's weird when you talk about fandoms. Sometimes fandoms online can be very toxic. If you talk about one thing but not the other, people can be like, well, the original was better than the remake, blah blah blah. But the Guardians of the Galaxy fandom online is just all love. Everybody hashtags everything. We are great, because that's the love we all share for each other.
Yeah, those films that he created are fantastic, and they're some of my favorite Marvel films, because myself, I relate to Rocket Raccoon completely. Like that's my MCU character, and I completely understand all what you're saying with the depression and all that, and it really does. It's great that you're able to find something to help lift you up from those moments that you have, right?
Yeah,
it's interesting to be able to be open about it too, because that's something too that we haven't really discussed a whole lot on the podcast too. But Katie and I went through but rough times and all that, and there was a lot of questionable things that happened in our past, my past mainly, and being able to get through them and find that there is light at the end of the darkness once you can find who you are and what you are. And everyone's going to struggle, and you're always going to strive to be better and whatnot, but being able to find those things that can lift you from the darkness, right? It's a great feeling. Yeah. So no, that is awesome. Yeah. I look forward to what's going to happen with the third one, and it's nice to see that Gunn is coming back for that, so that'll be exciting.
Oh yeah, it was a very exciting day for all of us when we heard the good news.
Right. Hopefully we get a trilogy finished from the same director, which will be nice.
Yeah, it's a first time. Well, I suppose the Russos, but this is the first time the same group of films in the MCU have been directed by the same director.
Yeah.
Even like the Russos, although they directed Avengers and stuff and the Captain America. But Marcus and McFeely were the writers of the Captain America movie, so they kind of have a connection there. But Guardians of the Galaxy's James Gunn's baby, because he directed it pretty much.
Yeah, which will be fantastic to see that all come together, as a whole, without having anyone else's real input on it.
Yeah.
With that, then, I would assume to say, if you were to do a top 3 characters, where would you go?
Well, number 1 would be Peter Parker, obviously, because of SpiderMan. Number 2 would be Marty McFly. Marty McFly, to me, whenever I was a kid, was the coolest guy alive. I just wanted to be him, because he was so, not even suave. He was just a kid, but he didn't have any, he wasn't an asshole. He wasn't a dick to anybody. He was just the coolest kid in school. It was just in his nature. Compared to like when he goes back in time, you see how nerdy his dad was, and his mum is trying to sexually molest him, but that's a whole different point. Whenever he's in the present time, he is the skateboarding. He's Bart Simpson, but not less of a brat. He's the I'm going out on a date with my hot girlfriend, and we need the truck. Oh no, it's crashed. But let's travel back in time to fix this. Marty McFly, through all of the Back to the Future films, it's just cool. There's never a point where you're like, well, Marty's a bit of a dweeb, apart from when he plays Marty McFly Jr. And it's always been my dream one day to have a rehydrated Pizza Hut.
No, yeah, Marty, you're right. Marty McFly, he just oozes cool and suave, and you either want to be him or hang out with him.
Yeah,
You know, it's a great. It shows the acting and the writing on those movies were just fantastic because there's no moment in it where you're like, wow, he is a dick, right? Which you can easily get now. So it shows there was a little bit more optimism when they made those movies for the world.
Yeah, if they remade Back to the Future now, he'd be played by, I don't know, who's a dick kid? One of the kids from Stranger Things.
Most likely, probably the kid that plays Mike.
Yeah, it'd be him, and he'd be complaining the whole time.
Yeah.
Because he'd have to travel back in time to, like, the 90s. So have to reboot it. And he'd be like, oh, why are these cell phones so big? Go away, please.
Don't put that too far. Don't put that too far out into the interwebs. They'll hear you, right? And it'll come crashing down on us.
Yeah, I think it's just been greenlit by Universal.
It's funny. Just this morning, Katie and I, we saw some like clickbait stuff. And we're like, we should just do an entire episode where it's just rumors that we just make up. And just see if it like skyrockets the podcast and just be like, you know, this so-and-so, this show is going to have a guest star because, you know, in the past they've had guest stars. So they're going to have, you know, just kind of go on that tangent.
Yeah. Well, that's literally our new news section every week. I always read something that happens and then literally the second I post it, it comes out that it's just a rumor. I was like, God damn it.
So true. So true. Okay, so we got Marty McFly and Peter Parker.
The third character would be Jesse Custer from Preacher.
Okay.
Preacher kind of got me into comic books, and I always say to everybody that Preacher is the greatest story ever told in any medium. It's just, it's so impressive what Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon were able to do with just 66 issues, I think it was. Able to tell such an epic story about something that was a bit controversial, a man going to have a word with God to tell him to sort himself out. Garth Ennis, of course, that wrote it, is from Belfast, where I'm from, so that was oh my God, he's a modern day cowboy, and although his morals might be a bit grey sometimes, he always does the right thing, and that story, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but that story is so inspirational in the sense of how you should be a gentleman in your life, and no matter how bad your history is or any family issues, it doesn't matter, because whenever you find somebody that you want to be with the rest of your life, that's you starting a new chapter in your life. It's the story that you've always been wanting to tell all your life, and hopefully that story can inspire somebody else.
No, that's really cool. I haven't fully read all of Preacher, so I'm gonna have to go back and look at it again. So that's really cool. So you got Peter Parker, Jesse Custer, and Marty McFly. That's a great list of it's kind of like a little bit of everything, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there anything that you are reading or watching right now?
Well, I'm watching Stranger Things season 3. I'm literally just an episode in. Me and Heidi have a problem where we put on Netflix and try to watch the latest series that everybody's raving about, and then we end up just watching episodes of Jeopardy. So we'll get to it at some point.
Yeah, we just finished it. I think it was probably my favorite of the seasons because it's the fastest. There's less filler in it, which is really cool. I
just love Steve.
Yes, that is the best story in the entirety of all of the series. So
yeah,
this one has some great moments of growth. So I hope you'll enjoy it. So
we'll get to it at some point as soon as we get through the kids championship of Jeopardy that we're watching at
That's awesome. I never thought I'd actually be able to then tag Jeopardy in my podcast.
Well, I'll say Alex Trebek, and then you can tag that as well.
Can you give our listeners 3 either movies or books, TV shows that you would recommend?
I would recommend a movie called Possum. I think I recommended this to you on Instagram a while ago. British low-budget horror movie. I don't want to say what it's about, but just go watch the trailer on YouTube. It's called Possum.
Okay.
And it has my wholehearted recommendation, because nothing ever scares me in movies, and this movie genuinely made me shit my pants.
Okay, so check out Possum. I'll have to look that up.
A TV show I'd recommend is RuPaul's Drag Race.
Well, because you got a good segue there, right?
Well, we got a podcast that Heidi hosts called Tea and Shade, but it's really hard doing a recap show of a competition. But it's something I wanted to recommend on this show because it's probably not something your listeners would watch. I don't know if Katie watches RuPaul's Drag Race, does she?
No. We don't watch a lot of reality TV, so
it's just really good.
Yeah.
Like it's really well made and it's funny because reality television show like edge that I want. It's not like I don't know something like Love Island or Big Brother where it's just boring people sitting in a room. This is a competition where, because they are naturally bitchy, it's really funny. And I just love the whole, like it's weird for me to watch it with Heidi and for me to be like, oh, her dress is really beautiful this week. I was like, what am I talking about?
That's awesome.
And a third thing, a comic book I want to recommend, just because the TV show has just dropped on Amazon, The Boys, written by Garth Ennis and art by Derek Robinson, I believe. It's one of the few comic books, a group that are anti-superheroes, because in this reality, the Justice League is full of sex pests and rapists and pedophiles and racists, and the boys as a group are here to sort them out. And I haven't seen the show yet, but if it's anything like the book, it's going to be ridiculous. And the book is beautifully drawn. I love Derek Robinson's art. He also did the art for Happy, which is a TV show now as well. But it's such beautiful art, and the things he has to draw is horrifying. Lots of close-ups of penises, just like RuPaul's Drag Race, and it's just a funny book, and hopefully the TV show is able to bring over that humour, and people just don't see it as another comic book show that's being rude for the sake of being rude.
Yeah. The trailers for it look pretty spectacular, and I have read some of the Boys books too. That's another one I've never finished, but what I did remember reading, it was very interesting, and the take of it, right? So, one book. Have you ever read Crooked Little Vein from Garth Ennis?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay. That one there was a very good book. I would recommend that for sure, because there's some descriptions in there. I don't want to throw it out there because when you read it, it's like the oh my god moment. But yeah, that was a very engaging book. His second one, it wasn't as interesting, but Crooked Little Vein was a fantastic detective story.
I'll have to get on that. I'll get some Amazon sponsors on this podcast.
Right? Book reviews. Brought to you by Amazon. So where can people find the Spit Roast Podcast?
Well, you can find us mostly on Instagram at Spit Roast Pod. We are on Twitter, but I never use it. It's Spit Roast Pod, or you can just find me at Adam Neeson, or you can follow our YouTube, which is at Mr. Adam Neeson. It's my personal YouTube, but I put the podcasts up there. I never promote the YouTube because I don't want to promote anything until we get our visual things set up. Like, I'm in our studio, quote unquote studio now. It's literally, we soundproof this room by having bed mattresses up against the walls.
Okay.
So it's not the most visually appealing stuff, but we're working on it. We're getting we're trying to come up with something creative, but with the lack of money, if we have a lot of pops and we have a bit of an addiction.
Yeah. Where
we're like, we could buy food or something for the office, and then we walk into a store and it's like, but they got pops from the new It movie, so don't really know what to tell you.
No, I understand that one for sure. I completely get that. It's so easy to get, especially when you like something like that. You want to collect those things because they are adorable still, and they're getting creepier though, especially with the It movie stuff.
They've got a new It, because I have like 5 It pops come out of control, like, and it's all Pennywise. It's not as if it's anybody else. But they have another Pennywise, which is him with the balloon, cartoon that says I love dairy. And I'm like, oh, I love that so much.
That's awesome. Well, sometimes we like to, because our listeners like to have the Canadian truce. Can you throw out one from your home country?
Well, people won't let you believe this, but leprechauns are all after our Lucky Charms.
That there you go. It would be an Irish truth, right?
Hashtag Irish truth.
There you go. Leprechauns are real. I'm gonna throw out a weird one because I mentioned it to you on Instagram when you were asking what kind of questions I was going to ask you, and I just threw out this because I thought it was funny, and that's where I was in my mind frame yesterday morning. So FMK, fuck, marry, kill, Annabelle, the Nun, or La Lorna?
Now, Mike, I had a real long think about this because I'm a specialist in. If someone asks me a stupid question, people are impressed that I take it very, very serious. So let's go for fuck first. I would fuck Annabelle, right? Because she's a doll. So technically, you get yourself a flashlight, put up Annabelle's dress. We're on for a winner. I would marry the nun because she's celibate. So that means no sex, which is a good thing with the nun. And also free housing because those old creepy churches in France, pretty nifty. You know what I mean? Maybe not the best heating wise, might get a bit chilly, but can make do. Kill La Lorana because she has nothing to give me. Because once you marry her, she kills your kids and then kills you. And also, she's the easiest one to kill, according to the movies, because I don't know if you've seen La Lorana, but that movie ends in a whimper.
Well, that's good to know, though, right?
Yeah.
And if anything, if you marry the nun, you get to keep Annabelle around for those lonely, cold nights.
Exactly. And you go to get a sandwich, and you're like, oh, I'm really hungry. Walking down a long corridor, and the one just appears. Yeah, but one of these movies is, I've got a problem. Let's call the local Hispanic priest. He'll sort it out for us.
Well, thank you for answering the ridiculous question that I gave you, because that was awesome. And I'm glad that you did put some thought into that. Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us a bit about your podcast and some of the things that you like in life and how they help you kind of live a rad life. Really hope that we can figure out maybe a crossover in the future, something else. And if you guys in Listenerland want to hear another crossover with the Spit Roast, let us know in the comments, because I think it would be kind of awesome if you're willing, Adam.
Absolutely. It's been real fun, Mike. It's good to actually talk to you in person because we've been following each other on Instagram for years now, I think.
Yeah. It's kind of that. I have no idea how long we've been Instagram acquaintances, but I think at some point we're pretty much a friend. It's like a little family thing now, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. The awkward reach arounds and little.
But I'll spit my hand and I'll be gentle.
Okay, that'll be good. Might need that. Do you got anything else you want to say to listeners out there?
Just have a good day, and if you have any issues, talk to somebody. It's probably the best advice anybody could ever give you. If you ask somebody and they tell you that there's worse things in the world than your depression, fuck those people, because you live your own life, and sometimes the stuff inside your head is worse than anything that's going on in the outside. So just talk to somebody, anybody, a therapist, a friend. It's always good to talk and share your feelings with people, because you are the most important thing in life.
That's very good advice. It is good to reach out and have those discussions, and there's bound to be lots of people out there that are willing to listen and to hopefully give you some sound advice that'll help you break from the darkness. Thank you again, sir. I appreciate it. I will let you go and have a great evening, because that's where you're at versus my morning. So
it's starting to get dark here, so time to get to bed before the nun comes and knocking, looking for some loving.
And now you've got another video. Thank you again, and have a good day, sir.
Thank you, bud.
Thank you for listening. Want more rad content? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter And don't forget to subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review.
And remember, be excellent to each other and party on, dudes!